17 female Becky, my sister is 50 female, while the mother of my kids / my late wife is dead, and my sister never married. So, my son has found a house closer to his college, so he went and drove out to check it out. Then planned to spend the night at his buddy's place, then spend the rest of the day there, then come home. I was on a business trip, and my sister has moved in with us because she fell into a bad financial situation during these times. She doesn't pay rent or bills. So I was coming home from the business trip I mentioned above, and I get a call from Joseph, and he says that he's taking Becky to ER because she was in excruciating pain. I immediately joined them at ER, and apparently it's a ruptured appendix. My sister won't answer the phone, so I asked Joseph if he saw her before he left, and he said, yeah, she was in her room watching something on her phone. So then I asked Becky if she talked to her aunts before they left, and she said yes, and that she kept telling her and was practically begging her to do something and that it hurt. But she wouldn't do anything, and told her that she wasn't her responsibility. I lost my cool, so I left Joseph to watch Becky, after they had given her painkillers and put her to sleep, and the doctors had verbally told us anything we need to know, but I admit I need to work on thinking straight while angry. Then went to our house and I asked my sister why she didn't do anything, or at least call me and told her about Becky's condition. She said that she thought she was complaining about period cramps or something, and that with that knowledge, she didn't think it was her responsibility to do anything. I told her to leave. She then started apologizing like crazy, but I was seeing red, and I packed her things up and told her to leave. She drove away, and then I returned to the ER. So earlier today, while I was in the hospital, they had moved Becky. My sister calls me and says that she had to beg her friends for a place to stay, and that I'm such a bad person. I laughed and told her to reap what she sowed and hung up. But now looking back on the situation, I think I might be an a-hole for how rude I was to her and for kicking her out. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like the next time she calls you, tell her she's not your responsibility. Not the a-hole. A 17-year-old has been through enough periods, most likely, to be able to handle period cramps herself without much complaining. That's just a BS excuse that your sister used because she didn't want to take care of her knees. 17 or not, if somebody comes to you in that much pain, take them to the hospital. I'm sure you'd rather pay the insurance bill for something minor, rather than your daughter sitting at home in excruciating pain with no answers. Also, women's periods change over the years and can suddenly become painful. Even if it were period issues, the cause could be cysts, fibroids, endometriosis, infections, etc. A 17-year-old, as you say, has been through enough periods to distinguish between painful but normal cramps and something more serious that requires immediate medical attention. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole one bit. Even if she wasn't living with you, not helping a family member because she's busy watching something on her phone sucks. Considering she was living with you, she sounds pretty horrible. Her begging her friends and not having a place to stay? Not your responsibility. Not the a-hole. Your sister is a freeloader, first of all. Second, your daughter could have died, but your sister didn't care because she's lazy as hell. I'm glad you kicked her out. Please don't ever second guess yourself. Your daughter really could have died because your sister didn't care at all about anyone but herself. Not the a-hole. You helped your sister out when she was in a financial crisis when it wasn't your responsibility to do anything. And she can't even help your minor daughter out in a medical emergency? Listening to your daughter's symptoms is free. Calling 911 is free, especially since she was already on her phone. She sounds like a completely self-absorbed a-hole, and you were right to kick her to the curb. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother's fiancée out of my car on her engagement night? My brother's engagement dinner was last night. I don't like his fiancée for several reasons. She's mean and brutally honest with her comments about my life. Always tries to belittle me every chance she gets. Like belittling my degree and living situation. I'm civil though I have a temper, and sometimes I can be mean towards those with no respect. My wife passed away from breast cancer. We bought a car and it's the first decent car we got. And my wife and I didn't make a lot of money, so it was a challenge to save up. It was her choice, so I make sure to keep it maintained regularly. My brother's fiancé made comments about it, calling it a piece of junk. And it hurt because it's part of mine and my wife's past. When the party was over, My cousin left, was the one who got them to the restaurant, and my brother didn't want to take an Uber. He wanted me to give them a ride. I said okay, but his fiancée stood there saying she wasn't going to ride in that piece of junk on her engagement night. I got really annoyed by this comment, and my mom, who was in the passenger seat, did too. My brother spent 5 minutes convincing her, and she finally got inside the car, but didn't stop with her constant criticisms and how awful and dirty my car was, and continuously calling it a piece of junk. My brother said nothing, so I made eye contact via the rear view mirror and said if she called my car a piece of junk one more time, she's out. I don't care if I drop her off in the middle of nowhere. My brother's fiancée went quiet for a few minutes, then commented on the necklace that was hanging from the rear view mirror, calling it ugly, asking why it hang cheap, ugly stuff to make this piece of junk even uglier. I freaking had it. That necklace belongs to my wife, for Christ's sake. I got mad. I stopped the car and told her to shut up and get the hell out. My brother asked if I was serious, while my mom was trying to get me to continue driving. I repeatedly told her to get out, but didn't. So I got out, walked up to her side and opened the door for her to step out. She started crying, and my brother called me nuts for acting out like that. I told both of them to get out, and they did. I drove off, and Mom didn't stop yelling, saying I can't leave them on the street. They just got engaged. And told me to turn around and pick them up, but I screamed at her to stay the hell out of it, or she'll join them. She told the family what I did, and my dad was pissed, saying it was disgraceful to do this to my brother and his fiancée, and should be ashamed of myself for making a scene on their engagement night. He said I need serious help for my anger, and should have just sucked it up till I got home. Mid-argument, I walked out, leaving him talking to himself. I'm sure my brother doesn't want to see me for letting him down on a special night in his life, but his fiancée was being disrespectful. So was I the a-hole? Edit. She did not know that the necklace belonged to my late wife, so while she shouldn't have commented on it, I could see that she wasn't aware of its sentimental value. Not the a-hole. People who are proud of having a brutally honest personality just enjoy being cruel. You had every right to defend your deceased wife's necklace and your belongings. You'd be upset with yourself if you didn't. I'm sorry for your loss. Brutally honest is just code to I'm an a-hole, deal with it. Can't see that marriage lasting long. I came here to say just that. Every self-described brutally honest person I've met is a thin-skinned a-hole, can dish out but not take it. Not the a-hole. The fact that it was their engagement party is not even relevant to this. In no way does that excuse her awful behavior. No, it doesn't excuse her behavior. I get my brother didn't do anything wrong, but he was there and saw how the fight started, and to blame me solely for the fight I think is unfair. My dad said I needed to get a grip because he knows how I can be sometimes, but if he wants to blame, then he should blame her as well. Not the a-hole. Assuming that you left them somewhere where they can get home from, and weren't in immediate danger of being eaten by a wolf. Why on earth is your brother more assertive with his fiancée when trying to save $20 in an Uber than when she's cruelly insulting his sibling? I don't know why he refused to take an Uber in the first place, but I think it's because his fiancée thought it'd harm her prestige. I could see how she was making insensitive comments about the necklace since she didn't know it belongs to my wife, but her attitude was too much to handle, frankly. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws I'll never cook for them because I don't cook for ungrateful people? My in-laws are big food people. They're also the kind of people who complain about food they get behind a cook's back. I always knew this about my in-laws. My husband warned me, told me he had told them to knock it off before, but they won't, so he refuses to engage. They are that ungrateful that when my grandmother-in-law died, his family were all witching about the food a neighbor brought out to them. Casserole, salad, sandwiches, pizzas, and saying how bland or mad the food was. The food was tasty, and there wasn't a damn thing wrong with it. That's just them. They never talk like that about each other's food, but as an in-law, you're not exactly exempt from criticism. Another time, they were at a neighborhood barbecue and complained about the stuff other people brought, even saying something about food a 12-year-old prepared. They made little skewers, and saying it was so obviously a child's cooking, meaning nothing special, as they put it. So anyway, my sister-in-law had her youngest christening recently. She had hired a caterer and they cancelled the last minute. Workers came down with COVID. They ended up asking me if I would help get food together for it. I said no. My husband told them we were busy and didn't have the time for it. Sister-in-law said I usually have chill Saturdays and could easily prepare something. He spoke to them and said in no uncertain terms that I owe them food. What followed was, they stopped by while he was working and I was home, and asking me to make a couple of pizzas for the christening party. I told them they already had their answer. They told me I could get some money thrown my way for it. I told them even if they paid me double the standard price of 2 pizzas, I still wouldn't cook for them with how they treat food made by other people. They told me being part of the family means having to sometimes, and I said I would never cook for them because I don't cook for ungrateful people. They're pissed, and a few of them called me an a-hole. My husband told me they were acting like kids, and I was fine. Part of me feels like the a-hole because I know how they are and I engaged with them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Stand your ground. They sound awful. You're completely right. There's no point making anything when you already know they'll criticize it. Part of me wonders if that's why the caterer cancelled. She knew she'd get a bad review from them. This. They're going to complain about it, so why make it? If you took the money, they'd feel more entitled to complain. Basically, they're going to complain if OP does it and complain when OP doesn't. So why bother putting in the effort? I hate people who complain about food but will still eat them. That's just looking for something to pick on. Not the a-hole. They were told no several times. Only when they continually press did you lay it all out for them. Do not let them bully you. Kudos to your husband for having your back with his family. Yeah, most of these stories have the husband rolling over to avoid conflict. Not the a-hole. I honestly also feel weird about them putting so much pressure on Opie to make food for them, even when they already said no. It makes me feel like they really want other people to bring food so they can criticize it, as if it's a family hobby. Not the a-hole. I've heard you talk crap about every single thing I've ever seen you eat. Why would I want to cook for you? That's not rhetorical. Please, tell me why that would make sense. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my friend after she broke my antique easel accidentally? In World War II, my grandpa was stationed in Germany and became friends with a well-known local artist who happened to be Jewish. My grandpa helped him flee the country, and in return, the artist gave him his handcrafted easel, which was already considered an antique at the time. When I was 12, my grandpa passed away and he left me the easel as he knew I wanted to be an artist myself. The easel is worth around $4,000 and is insured. I keep it in my art studio in the far corner of the room, out of the way where it displays my favorite painting. Last week on Friday, we had a small get-together with our friends for the first time since being fully vaccinated. Whenever we have a group of people over, we hang a sign across our stairs that says "Do not cross." I collect antiques, which we display upstairs, and that's also where my art studio is. All of our friends know this is why we don't want people up there. One of our friends, Emily, spilled wine down her shirt, while our downstairs bathroom was occupied, so I let her go upstairs to use the one off of our bedroom. I did not specifically tell her not to go anywhere else upstairs, as I assumed she knew based on the sign that we didn't want people hanging out up there. After about 20 minutes, I realized Emily still didn't come down, so I went up to check on her. She wasn't in the bathroom, so I started looking for her and found her in my art studio on the opposite side of the house from the bathroom. The door had been shut. She was standing over my easel, which had fallen and hit a windowsill, which cracked one of the legs. She immediately apologized, which I said I appreciated, but I asked her to leave as she had broken my trust and boundaries. I told her there was absolutely no reason she should have been in that room, and she said she was just curious. I told her that was no excuse, and again asked her to leave, which she did while crying. Emily did know the story of the easel and knows how protective I am of it. I have not talked to her since it happened. Our friend group is split. Some think I was too harsh since it was an accident. Others says she was snooping and deserved to be kicked out. Am I the a-hole? Info. Emily and I have been friends for years, although I wouldn't call her my best friend. We are both part of the same close-knit friend group and do hang out alone on occasion. Everyone in the group views Emily as our kid sister, because she grew up in a very sheltered household and can tend to be a bit ignorant sometimes. We all tend to protect her because of this, and that's why I think some of our friends think I'm being too harsh. As for the repairs, I reached out to a museum a couple of hours away that does beautiful restoration work. They sounded optimistic, but advised that there may be a permanent mark where the crack is and a loss of value. We are waiting to hear back on the estimated cost before we send it to be fixed. Not only did she snoop, but she touched it, causing it to fall. It's not like the weight of her glance caused it to fall over. And she knew how important it was to you and how delicate it was, which makes it even worse. In that moment, she disregarded your feelings and your physical boundaries. She deemed her curiosity or whatever as being more important. It is not even the story of origin that made it important, but the fact that it was from your grandpa to you, and it was important to him. I'd honestly never allow her in my home again, and our friendship would be completely different and beyond full repair. Not today, Hull. Thank you. Your response makes me feel a lot better about my reaction. The easel is adjustable and can be folded to become portable, and I think she was messing with that when it fell. I'm not 100% sure, but the part that holds the paintings had been adjusted, so I'm assuming she had been trying to adjust other parts of it as well. I'm so heartbroken about the entire situation, and I don't know if I'll be able to get over this violated feeling. So she had gone as far as physically manipulating it. That's outrageous, especially with an old treasured piece. If she was curious about how it worked, she could have asked you to demonstrate some time. Instead, she took advantage of being allowed to use the bathroom. As for now, she's shown you she can't be trusted to respect you and your property. You were acting accordingly. She crossed your boundaries, and in the process broke a prized possession. Not today, Hull. Not today, Hull. You literally had a sign saying don't cross, and she still went in the room. Stupid games equals stupid rewards.